Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty gain for the third day. IT stocks lead the rally, but bank stocks lag. Mid-caps outperform the blue chips. Some respite for Adani Group as 6 out of the 10 group stocks end in the green. MSCI defers its decision to reduce the weightage of Adani companies till May, but despite all of this, the group sees its market cap erode by another 3,000 crore rupees today. The government submits its affidavit on the Adani Hindenburg case to the Supreme Court in a sealed envelope, likely to have accepted the court's proposal to set up an expert panel to protect investors, but with riders. Crude oil prices remain on a tight leash, with Brent hovering around the $85 mark. The government cuts the windfall tax imposed on crude, aviation fuel and diesel. Shares of oil marketing companies and aviation stocks rally in trade. Income tax officials continue to be at the offices of the BBC in Delhi and Mumbai. Tax Department alleges non-compliance with transfer pricing rules and diversion of profits. BBC says it is cooperating with the probe. Brisk polling in all 60 assembly seats in Tripura. The state is seeing a triangular contest between the ruling BJP alliance, the Left Congress alliance and the newcomer Chipra Mota party led by Pradyut Dev Varman, the head of the Tripura royal family. It's a big deal, says US President Joe Biden, praising Elon Musk for opening up Tesla's electric vehicle charging network to rivals. The move signals a potential thaw in an otherwise frosty relationship between Musk and the White House. 79% of people in India trust social media influencers and are likely to buy the products they endorse, according to a study by the Advertising Standards Council. Even as the trust quotient remains high, nearly 2,800 complaints have been filed against influencers in less than 2 years over misleading ads. While the Wall Street did gain for the third day in a row, the Sensex and the Nifty ending mildly higher, closing at one-month highs. The Nifty staying above the 18,000 mark, led higher by IT stocks. Midcap outperformed the blue chips. The index ended over 0.5% higher. Banks underperformed today. The Nifty Bank Index closing the day's session 0.25% lower. Prashant is standing by to wrap up the market action for us. Prashant.
Well, it was a disappointing day, I have to say, because the market looked like it was breaking out, following through after 2 strong days. I mean, it opened with a flourish, but by close, not very much. It was a whimper of a day on the Nifty, absolutely flattish kind of close. A similar kind of price action on banks as well, which is up on your screen. Sectorally, there were more gainers than losers. So government companies, CPSE index did well. IT, mid-caps especially, I'll get to stocks in a bit. Real estate, metals, etc. are other areas which did relatively better. Small caps, broader markets, more up than down. Market breadth was positive, unlike what we've seen for the last few sessions. In large caps, names like ONGC, Tech Mahindra, Apollo Hospitals, Nestle. Some of these, of course, are a continuation of moves which we saw yesterday or the day before. And as I said, in the broader market was where bulk of the action was. The defense names buzzed, HAL, BDL. There were Adani Group companies like Wilmar, Power, the mid-cap tech space, Emphasis, Nucleus, Mastech. There were names like PI Industries, which were reacting to earnings, post-earnings commentary, Tejas Networks, APL Apollo, and a bunch more. There were losers as well in names like Indigo, Adani Total, Adani Transmission. All cargo continues to see cuts. Loda and Campus were some of the others which saw selling pressure. The question is Nifty once again failing to break out of this range conclusively after hitting the upper end, as we've been pointing out. And I think the global context is important as well, because the debate is raging whether the US equity rally can continue with all the strong data that we have got recently. Back to you.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. That is the market action, but some respite coming in for the Adani Group. 6 of the 10 stocks ending in the green today. However, the group has seen its market cap fall by about 3,000 crore rupees today. The total fall in market cap since the Hindenburg report now stands at 10.5 lakh crore rupees. Global index provider MSCI has decided to defer its decision to reduce the weightage of Adani Total and Adani Transmission to its next index review, which takes place in May. MSCI cited its price limit mechanism as one of the reasons for the decision. Meanwhile, S&P Global Ratings has placed its ESG evaluation of Adani Transmission under review. The ratings firm in a statement said, and I quote, "We will closely monitor developments, including any investigations by Indian regulators and any additional disclosures by the Adani Group," end of quote. In other news, Adani Power's initial pact to acquire the thermal power assets of DB Power has expired, and this means the 7,000 crore rupee deal has essentially fallen through. In a notice to the exchanges, Adani Enterprises has also dismissed reports that suggested that the group had hired Grant Thornton for an independent audit of some of its companies. Adani Enterprises called the reports, and I quote, "a market rumor," and hence said it would be inappropriate to comment on the same. Well, let's delve deeper into the MSCI decision. Vivek is standing by to explain the rationale behind that deferral by the MSCI. Vivek.
Well, that's right. So in a surprise announcement today morning, the MSCI has actually intimated that the proposed changes that they had in terms of the weightage reduction in stocks that were part of the MSCI standard indices is now deferred to the May review. Now, talking specifically in terms of two stocks, Adani Total Gas and Adani Transmission, where analysts were estimating outflows of close to $125 to $165 million, the MSCI has cited potential replicability issues due to the impact from price limit mechanisms. What it basically means is that since these stocks have continuously been hitting lower circuits, the funds, the passive funds that track the MSCI index changes would be unable to make the changes on the back of the circuit limit filters that have been put in place. So on the back of that, they've gone ahead and deferred this particular change to the May review. Now, talking about Adani Enterprises, the change and the weight reduction will happen as per, what MSCI had earlier intimated. However, what MSCI has done is that this particular, from today onwards, the Adani Group stocks, remember, all of the Adani Group stocks, barring Adani Wilmar and NDTV, are part of the MSCI index. So, they will have a special treatment and they will continue to remain part of certain indices, barring the MSCI standard index that has the maximum tracking in terms of passive fund flow. So on the back of that, the volatility continues, but some good news coming in terms of the stocks not being removed from this particular immediate index rejig.
Vivek, many thanks for joining us. Now, the Union government has filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court on the Adani Hindenburg matter. The affidavit is only for the eyes of the judges and has been submitted in a sealed envelope. The court had asked the government to strengthen investor protection after the fall in Adani Group stocks. In fact, it had asked if there was a need for any review. Ashmit joins us now with more. Ashmit, of course, sealed cover makes its return in the Supreme Court. What next now as far as this matter goes?
Well, previously, when the Supreme Court took up the matter for hearing, that is the time when the Supreme Court had expressed concerns about lakhs of crores of investor wealth that was wiped out, and subsequently went on to suggest an expert committee that will lead, that will review, as well as suggest improvements to the current framework for investor protection. Now, it is in response to that we understand the government has filed its response before the top court. But interestingly and importantly, this has been done in a sealed cover. So only the top officials at the Finance Ministry, the Solicitor General, and now the judges will be privy to contents of that letter, of that submission that has been put forth before the Apex Court. The question being asked by many is why in a sealed envelope? Well, in just the last hearing, the Solicitor General, appearing on behalf of the government, had expressed concerns that no potentially adverse signals should be sent to the global markets on account of this expert committee reviewing the current framework for investor protection. So that was a concern that was cited by the government. So on the back of that, what can we expect as a part of the sealed cover? Well, number one, the government is expected to, argue, to say that it is, in fact, open to the idea of an expert committee. However, with riders. What are these riders? That's number two. Number two is that the government is likely to argue and likely to submit as a part of this affidavit that the scope should be limited, should be very limited. The remit of this expert committee should be limited so as to not spook the global markets and the global investors. And the third is, it is likely to have suggested names of experts that can be considered as a part of this expert committee. That will essentially be the 3-point formula that will be put forth as a part of this government submission. But whether or not this will be made public, whether or not the government suggestions will be acted upon and what the future course of action could look like. Tomorrow holds the key. February 17th is when the Apex Court takes up this case for further hearing. And what's also interesting is that there's also a fresh application that is seeking a probe not just into Adani on the corporate governance issues, but also into LIC and SBI on the back of their subscription to the FPO at significantly higher than market levels. So these are issues that will be taken up for hearing tomorrow when the Apex Court takes up these petitions in the Adani Hindenburg case. Back to you.
Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Brent crude continues to hover around the $85 mark. The oil market seems to have shrugged off the huge surge in U.S. crude inventories. The International Energy Agency also predicts that oil demand will rise by 2 million barrels this year. In what comes as a relief to oil companies, the government has reduced the windfall tax on crude petroleum from 5,000 rupees per tonne to 4,300 rupees per tonne. The tax on ATF was slashed by more than half, from 6 rupees a litre to 1.5 rupees per litre. Aviation stocks rallying after the announcement was made. And similarly, the tax on diesel was also cut by more than half, from 7.5 rupees per litre to 2.5 rupees per litre. Well, veteran investor and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, Charlie Munger, is bullish on China despite tensions over Taiwan. He says Chinese stocks are at a cheaper valuation and the extra risk could provide extra value. Take a look.
I don't think Taiwan looks like such a cakewalk anymore. I think it's off the table in China for a long, long time. And I think that helps the prospects of investors who invest in China. And the other thing that helps in terms of the China prospects are that you can buy better, stronger companies at a cheaper valuation in China than you can in the United States. So you're getting the extra risk can be worth running given the extra value you get.
Well, that's Charlie Munger from the aviation space. Shares of Interglobe Aviation down in trade today following a bulk trade involving 1.7 crore shares. That sums up to about 4.4% stake. According to reports, Shobha Gangwal, the wife of Indigo co-promoter Rakesh Gangwal, is likely to have sold a part of her stake in the airline. Shobha Gangwal held 13.24% stake and Rakesh Gangwal held over 7% stake in Interglobe as of December 2022. If today's stake sale news is to be believed, then Shobha Gangwal's stake in the airline will fall to 2.64%. There is new information about Air India's large aircraft order. The Chief Commercial and Transformation Officer, Nipun Agarwal, has revealed that the airline has actually ordered 840 aircraft, of which 470 are part of the firm orders and 370 planes can be procured on an optional basis. This essentially means that the airline has the right to purchase additional 370 aircraft from Boeing and Airbus over the next decade. Lufthansa has resumed flight services following a major IT outage that forced the airline to delay and cancel its flights. Airline says construction work in Frankfurt had damaged broadband fiber optic cables that had caused the outage. And back to earnings, FMCG giant Nestle reporting a steady Q4, beating estimates on both EBITDA and margin. Net profit and revenue numbers a marginal miss, but much higher than the same quarter last year. The management says the growth is the highest for the company in a decade, backed by sustained volume and strong value growth. Chennai-based Global Pharma has been under the scanner after the U.S. drug regulator issued an import alert for allegedly not complying with good manufacturing practice. The U.S. FDA told CNBC-TV18 that the import alert was issued as the company did not provide adequate information to its queries. Ekta joins us now with more. Ekta, take us through what the FDA is saying and why is Global Pharma in the eye of a controversy?
Well, yes, the US drug regulator, or the US FDA, has told CNBC-TV18 that with regards to Global Pharma, the private Chennai-based company that was linked to the possible adverse events of over 50, which was recorded in the US due to the artificial tears which were manufactured by them, was in fact issued an import alert in the first week of January of this year. The US FDA has indicated that the import alert was because the company did not comply with the good manufacturing practices and they did not provide an adequate response to the records which were requested by them. Remember, an import alert prevents products from entering the US markets. However, importantly, the US FDA did tell us that this particular import alert was unrelated to the outbreak outbreak which was associated with the artificial tears drug recall. That took place in the 1st of Feb. And remember that was in fact initiated by the company, though the US FDA had recommended that the company does recall all of the lots with regards to the artificial tears. So the important point to note is that yes, they were issued an import alert in January of 2023, which is a red flag in terms of the manufacturing facilities of the company. Consequently, or coincidentally rather, they did have that artificial tears recall, but it was not related to the import alert as per the US drug regulator.
Ekta, many thanks. World Bank Chief David Malpass has decided to step down from his role close to a year before it ends. This comes after the climate groups called for his resignation after he refused to say if he believed man-made emissions contributed to global warming. Meanwhile, US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has thanked Malpass for his service and said that the US will soon nominate a replacement. India's competition watchdog, the CCI, has cleared Dalmia Bharat's acquisition of certain assets of Jaiprakash Associates. Dalmia Cement will buy JP Associates' clinker, cement and power plants for an enterprise value of over 5,600 crore rupees. The assets are present in the states of Madhya Pradesh, UP and Chhattisgarh. This includes the cement plant with a capacity of 9.4 million tons. We will head into a break, but up next, 79% Indians trust social media influencers and are likely to buy the products they endorse, but complaints over misleading ads also piling up. That and more when we return.